Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 95 of the Seezus Show. It's your boy, Sir Seezus, and I'm back better than ever. And it's only right to deliver some good quality content to all of you guys. So before we start this episode, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Sir Seezus TV. Make sure to subscribe on all forms of social media at The Seezus Show, at Sir Seezus, at Trade Day XXIV. Now, before we get into today's hottest topics, obviously I like to rehash the previous episode. So on episode 94 of The Seezus Show, it was Sir Seezus, myself, and Trade Day XXIV. And both of us discussed the bubble coming to an end. LeBron and the Lakers winning another championship. LeBron's legacy and greatness. Some major coaching decisions that teams would have to make. And obviously our top 10 teams going into the up and coming season. So took a mini hiatus and now the draft is coming up. So this week will primarily be focused on our NBA draft analysis / breakdown. And I'm excited to get to it. And me and Trade Day XXIV do have a very special guest. So without further ado, let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, obviously you guys know it's episode 95 of the Seezus Show. And today we have a special guest coming on. There's a guy that we met. His name is Robel, YouTube basketball. Well, he goes by basketball YouTuber guy. Has about 3.72K subscribers on YouTube. And, you know, he's all about the NBA and he has a lot of great insight to what's going on with the draft and whatnot. He's from Toronto. You know how they say, you know what they say about those Toronto people over there. I'm just kidding with you with that one. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Robel.
Appreciate it.
How you doing, man? You know, obviously, you know, I've been following you for quite some time. I think you were you one of the originals that created that content page on Twitter, like for people to share their content?
Yeah, I was the one that made it, so yeah, that's me.
So what made you, you know, think about this idea? Because I think it's a wonderful idea. Obviously I haven't used it in quite some time now, but you know, you literally look like you recruited the freaking Avengers to an extent, obviously on a small scale. And you know, it's good to, you know, get insight from a lot of people and see, you know, where they come from and, you know, just look at stuff from a different lens. So what got you you know, starting all that?
Well, you know, when you have like a small like sports channel, you decide like you don't get like crazy support right away. So it's like if everyone just supports each other, you keep introducing your content to new audiences, and then you retweet content for other people to see it. Like your audience can see other people's content. So it's like a win-win for everyone. I think everyone benefits from it, and I feel like, you know, it's an easy, it's not, you don't have to sacrifice that much. You just have to retweet something. And I mean, everyone was with it. So it's like, if you just get a lot of people, I think we have like 18 to 20 people in there. And then, yeah, you should be good. So that's why I just made it.
Dope. Yeah, I thought that was brilliant of you as well too. And like you said, it's double exposure, so it is a win-win. So definitely respect that as well too. So talk to us about, you know, your passion for, you know, creating content specifically for the YouTube audience, in talking about, you know, different avenues within the NBA. What got you into that?
I really like, I mean, in high school, I was in like grade 12 and I was just thinking, man, like, what do I really like when I was applying to universities and colleges? And I was like, what do I really like? What do I see myself doing in? And I'm that type of guy. It's like, I have to really like what I'm doing to really put in the effort and stuff like that. So I was just like, you know, why not get into basketball or something like that? So, you know, you could apply for a sports management or like sports media program, but it's a connection based thing, right? And you can't just have that diploma and expect to get a job. So I decided, what can I do to stand out? And that's why I decided to make a YouTube channel, because yeah, people could write articles and stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of people like that, but how many people really have a YouTube channel, right? And if it's successful, I can have that as a revenue of income. So I just thought about that, and then I really started loving doing it. It became like part of my routine, and yeah, it's basically part of my life now. I'm just working on it every day.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I respect that. I think you had a question, Trey.
No, no. I mean, yeah, I did. So I can't say no. But again, what's up, man? I know we said what's up in pre-production. Glad to have you here. And what's I guess you started doing this coming out of high school. Talk about passion, which is I think something that we're realizing. Us, our viewers, that life's short, definitely in this time like this. So um what would be your end goal? Do you have a position in mind? Do you have uh what's the outlook? This is kind of grassroots right now. Not even grassroots. You're kind of up and running, but do you have a position that you'd be like, I want to do this, and I know I kill at this?
Um, I mean, the goal for me is the NBA. When I started, I was on Twitter, and there's a certain section of draft Twitter, and I heard that people were getting hired to the NBA from Twitter, like literally seeing people's content on there. There's like NBA people that literally recruit people from Twitter, and I'm just like, I mean, I'm like delusionally confident. So I'm just like, man, if they could do it, and I start at like 19 years old, by the time I'm like 24, I'll be smart enough to do it. And that's
Heck
just my
yeah.
mindset. It's like if I just put in enough pain and experience, then why not? So I just decided, yeah, like I put really high goals for myself because like no one's gonna put higher expectations for me than myself. So that's why I put the highest goal. So like that's the end goal for me. But there's different avenues. I could like, one day I could wake up and have 100K subscribers and then just literally only make YouTube videos for my living. That could happen
Yeah.
too. Or I could work as like a scout for like, college teams or something like that. There's different avenues, but I just want to make it to the top in whatever I'm doing.
Okay.
Understood, man.
Okay.
Respect.
Respect for sure, for sure. So obviously, I'm assuming I could be wrong, but you're from Toronto. Are you a Toronto Raptors fan, or how does that work?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
So I guess my question for you is, what were your thoughts on the NBA restart with the bubble itself, and then following that, what were your thoughts on the Toronto Raptors and the bubble and moving forward?
I mean, there's a huge problem on our team, and that's like shot creation. And I've been saying it like all year, even before. Like, we're not even a top 10 offense. And
Mm,
as one of the best teams in the league, it's like, man, I don't know what type of teams, especially in these type of times, could get far in the playoffs when they don't have a top 10 offense. And they're like,
Yeah.
I think they're 12th before the bubble happened and stuff. So I was just like, I don't know. We're gonna have to fix something. Like, playoffs is only going to get harder. They're going to game plan for us. And then, I mean, the Pascal Siakam thing, I honestly didn't think anyone could have predicted that. Whoever like thought that is just lying, honestly. Like, because that was like literally obviously it was one of like the worst playoff performances ever. So when that happens, it's obviously like unprecedented. And yeah, I made a whole video about what Pascal needs to do to overcome that. And yeah, everyone just needs to get better. Even Nick Nurse has shown his limits as a coach because he's a defensive-minded coach, and then he just lets the offense kind of ride it out. But you can't do that if you use your genius on both ends, especially when you have players that aren't really there's not a lot of bucket getters on the team. So
mm,
you can't
For
just
sure.
let them, do like last year you could do that because you had Kawhi because he's the ultimate bucket getter, one of the best ones, right? So you can have him to bail you out, but you don't have that this year. So that's why I felt like we just came up short.
yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Obviously, I think you guys have Fred VanVleet, who's about to be a free agent. Do you see him staying with the Toronto Raptors, or do you see him trying to get a huge payday elsewhere?
I don't know. Like looking at his mentality, I would think that he's gonna lean to whoever pays him the most. It's obviously a weird situation because with the pandemic, know how much, who's gonna get how many dollars the owners got taken away from them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think I think he's not a guy that's like the super like I love Toronto, Toronto's me. Like I think he already has the championship, so it's like there's not like a dying love for Toronto for he would just automatically consider them and re-sign right away, right? Like I'm just looking at it realistically. So he could go to the Knicks, he could go to the Suns, Detroit. I mean, I'm just like 50-50 on it. I would love to have him back. I'm just saying it's like it's a real possibility he leaves.
Yeah, because to me, I feel like Kyle Lowry is just getting older. I mean, I guess nowadays in the NBA, with the modern day medicine, workout routines, the amount of money these players are spending on their body, I just feel like you can play for a longer time. So I feel like obviously started this year as well too, majority of the games, right? I feel like he would eventually take that role as being that go-to guy after Pascal Siakam. So I think him winning a championship there would give him an incentive because it's like I've been playing at a high level, going to the playoff every single year. For me to go to a team like the Kings, a team like the Knicks, and basically start from scratch, that kind of doesn't make sense to me. So if I was him, I would stay there. Like you said, we don't know exactly what the salary cap's going to look like and if fans are going to be allowed there. So we really don't know about all that about all that stuff. So maybe he signs, short-term deals until we actually, once we get rid of the pandemic. And yeah, I think you guys are going to need him, man. I think he's a diamond in the rough that you guys invest in. So we'll see what happens from there as well, too. So getting into my next topic, a couple things happened within the past week or so. Obviously, we already know that Steve Nash is the new head coach for the Brooklyn Nets. Now, with Steve Nash, he happened to hire a few different assistants, and basically all of them have, come up, and played with him as well too. But one person that stands out the most is Mike D'Antoni. Obviously, we know Steve Nash, two-time MVP, was very prominent under Mike D'Antoni's 7 seconds or less offensive system. So with Mike D'Antoni being in the role as an assistant head coach, how do you see Brooklyn panning out? And do you think that, they're going to coexist with Steve Nash, with Mike D'Antoni, knowing that you have Kyrie and knowing that you have, Kevin Durant, who aren't, perceived as having, a leadership mindset and kind of are in their own little space. But how do you feel about that whole situation?
I mean, I don't think the Nets are like a contender, honestly. Like, there's just, I mean, when you look at the roster, aside from KD and Kyrie, it's like they don't have any. Rim, I mean, they have one rim protector, which is Jared Allen, but he's going to be on the bench and he might be traded, honestly, because, with the DeAndre Jordan and the Jared Allen thing. Like, any smart coach is going to start Jared Allen over DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre is going to get mad. That might be a story. And they don't have any wings, like any wing defenders, especially, which is what they need because KD's basically a big now, honestly, and he's going to be guarding bigs. And then Kyrie's obviously a guard, so you do need those wings to push you towards the championship. And there's not a lot of wings in the NBA that just cheap and are available. So I don't see them as like a true contender. I wouldn't put any huge expectations on them just because they have KD and Kyrie. Um, with the coaching is interesting because Steve Nash, we never seen him coach, so we don't know what to expect from him. But we do have that's why he hired like Mike D'Antoni and stuff like that to help him out. And I think hopefully we'd see some Kyrie and Kevin Durant PNR. I know KD doesn't really like to be like the big as the popper and stuff like that. Like Steph and KD never ran pick and roll, which is weird. So it's just I hope we get to see that. I hope we just get to see both of them maximize to their full potential, and then they fill out that roster with competent wing players and rotation guys, so they can look like a legit team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, granted, they're in the East, right? The East is kind of like they're very top heavy, right? So they're kind of like the JV compared to the Western Conference. So I feel like, I mean, it really kind of comes down to what is KD going to look like, post Achilles injury? What is Kyrie going to look like post shoulder surgery? If they're, in my mind, I'm very optimistic. If they're what I think they're going to be, and you add a playoff team, you add two superstars to a playoff team, I think with KD's cachet, you have to put them in championship consideration at least. But I can see where you're coming from because of their past and, you know, us kind of just putting those expectations on them as well, too. But, I mean, I feel like, yeah, like I said, if they're healthy, then the sky's the limit for them. But, you know, we'll definitely see because I think Katie's going to be the big mystery going into this upcoming season as well, too. Next thing I wanted to talk about as well was Daryl Morey going over to the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, first with me, I was kind of thrown off about it. And I was kind of anti Daryl Morey. But then when I took a step back and I was like, hey, I mean, this guy kind of, you know, when he got to Houston, he kind of realized that, you know, James Harden wasn't going to be essentially a six-man like a Manu Ginobili. So he kind of gambled on him, got him there. He was able to get Dwight Howard. He was able to get Chris Paul, and obviously some good role pieces like a Trevor Ariza, like a Clint Capella, like a PJ Tucker, Austin Rivers, X, Y, and Z to kind of, you know, make Houston the top of the league. And, you know, they're able to be successful, you know, at Chris Paul not going down. I truly believe they would have beat Golden State in Game 6 or Game 7. And I think they would have beat Cleveland that year as well, too, with no Kyrie being gone, going to the Celtics. And then, you know, there's just Kevin Love and LeBron and company. So he's proven that based on his top tier talent, he has what it takes to build around them. But obviously he's always fallen short as well too. What are your thoughts on him essentially, you know, being the guy that calls the shots there over in Philadelphia?
I like it. I think Daryl Morey is like a very smart guy and I think he does take risks, but I feel like you need that, especially because they have like Tobias Harris's contract and Horford's contract. And I feel like, you know, you are going to lose those trades. But Daryl does what, like you said before, like he gets these players that aren't like succeeding in their situation, but they look way better in, like, you know, when they join his team. So
Yeah.
I feel like even if he loses those trades, because, you know, you are going to have to lose those if you want to trade those guys. I still feel like he'll get some pretty good rewards back for them. And then I think people just think Daryl Morey was just shooting threes, but he maximizes whatever he has on the roster around their stars, right? So if he has Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, he's not going to tell Joel Embiid to shoot 10 threes a game. No, that's not going to happen. It's just he's going to optimize both of their talents. Now, obviously, he's probably going to trade Tobias, probably going to trade Horford, and maybe one of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons will be gone if he doesn't like what he's seeing. So, I mean, I love it from a viewer's perspective because we get to see like what a smart mind gets to do with all of these players, because he has a problem, right? He has a problem that he has to fix. So it's like it's very hard to see how you're gonna turn the Sixers into a championship team. So it's like being him, the guy that gets to do it, is like it's gonna be interesting. So
Yeah, that's gonna be
I think
interesting. Go ahead, Trey.
I think it speaks to just how we've like gone away from the quote unquote, we're talking about Philly, the process or whatever like that. Like we're in a league where you get rewarded for being smart and doing like making the plays. So Daryl Morey being over in the West the whole time, you know, he was battling the likes of the Golden State Warriors, the Spurs, I mean the Nuggets, who have built through the draft and whatnot. Now he's in the East and he's battling people like up in Toronto where and I'm blanking on the name, but their GM and Pat Riley down, yep, and Pat Riley down in Miami and the Celtics, you know. So these are people that have been aggressive and that have been rewarded for being aggressive and for not just sitting back and saying, oh, we're going to wait on it. So the process is over in Philly. So I wouldn't be surprised, like Robel said, like it's going to be some changes. And I wouldn't be surprised if a star was gone, like we talked about in earlier episodes. It's just at this point, you know, you're not going to get rewarded, you know, for having a closed mouth, or, you know, you're going to starve to death if not. So, like Robel said, we're going to see what happens. He has the players, he has the personnel, and, you know, maybe some savvy moves from somebody in leadership can put them on the right path and maybe make them a contender in East that is top heavy, but that's not the part of the top they really want to be in. You know what I'm saying? They're not like Philly's gonna win. It's usually Philly's gonna disappoint us.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. So let's put the GM hat on here, Robel. If you are Daryl Morey and your owner comes to you and says, "Hey, let's try to get rid of one of these superstars," who are you keeping and why?
I knew this question was gonna come. And I go back and forth on it. Um, I'm just like I still haven't made a decision, so I'm probably gonna do it here and now. I'm not confident on it. I'm very 50-50 on either of them. I like Joel. I'm not a huge fan of Ben Simmons, but if I had to trade one of them, it'd probably be um I mean, obviously it depends like who gets more, but let's say you can get the same amount of value back. I'd probably have to trade Embiid.
Mm.
Um, and it's not saying I'm gonna trade Embiid and I'm a builder around Ben Simmons and treat him like he's Giannis because I just don't see Ben like that. I see him as like a small ball 4 or 5 at times, and him being like the Bam Adebayo plus type of player, right? I don't see him being like the point guard of the team. I would try to use him as that. And then if in that way he could be optimized greatly and he could still win your games trying to be that Giannis type of guy, it's just not always going to work. And I wouldn't focus all my energy to Ben Simmons superstar, franchise player type of stuff. So I will try to trade Joel just for some shot creators and some playmakers that could handle the ball alongside Ben Simmons, and then him just being the Bam Adebayo player that he should be. So, yeah, that's how I would look at it.
Okay,
Facts.
cool. And then over on the West Coast, Daryl Morey left. What's his name? Daryl Morey left, and then also what's his name? Mike D'Antoni left Houston as well too. So now they're kind of just in a weird sense. They hired a coach who really doesn't have that much experience. So I guess my question for you is like, if you are James Harden, do you trust that organization to continue to build around you? Because I don't really see what they can get. I mean, unless they get rid of Russell Westbrook. So if you're the GM, are you looking to essentially try to give up your pieces and get something back to keep James Harden happy? Or do you have to also look at, once free agency hits, we might just have to start from scratch and maybe possibly, just start over and get rid of James Harden, get rid of Russell Westbrook as well too. How do you feel about that whole situation? What would you do?
I mean, I would keep Harden. I would just try to run it back, see how he feels. But, you never know. He might just be like, man, I'm tired of this. I want to get traded. Then I would do it. I would honor his request, obviously. But I would try to run it back, switch up the approach, get a big man because, we know it's not going to work, right? It's not going to work if as long as the Lakers are there. As long as AD plays in the West, that idea should never be thought of again. So I would try to get a big, get some more off, like switch up the approach. I mean, Silas he's not a head coach, but he was an assistant coach for like 20 years. So like,
Yeah.
I guess he knows what he's doing, and he was on the Mavericks too. It's the Carlisle coaching tree, so he probably knows what he's doing. I feel like Carlisle's a very good coach. If he took a lot of pointers from him, I feel like that offense will work great with him because Harden will still be like a heliocentric player, but I do like to see some like more movement off the ball for the other role players. Can't just have them all stand around because it's not gonna work. They're gonna get cold. Like these guys are human. You can't just have them stand around and just wait for them, and then they're all gonna shoot 40%. It's not gonna work like that all the time.
Yeah, but my thing is like, all right, who can you give up to get a decent big? Because like you said, you gotta go up against Jokic, you gotta go up against Rudy Gobert, you gotta go up against Anthony Davis, et cetera, et cetera. So who do you see the Rockets being able to get, and who do you think they would have to give up to get them? Because ideally, we're in the era of a dynamic duo. So I mean, do you think PJ Tucker, Austin Rivers, Eric Gordon, do you think they have enough stock for people to buy in or other teams to buy in for that?
No, I don't think they should trade for a big. Like, there's no like, I don't think they have the assets, and like, there's no big that's good enough to really. I'm low on bigs. Like, there's no big on the market that's gonna be guarding Jokic and AD and be effective. You just need someone that exists there, you know. So it's like I don't. It's not like you have to get a big that plays 30 minutes a night, because PJ Tucker is still going to be the closing five to me. But you have to have like a big that is going to take the brunt in the regular season, because, you know, you can't have PJ Tucker and Robert Covington take those hits all the time. Like I said that way before, right when the trade happened. I'm just like, these guys are going to get injured. Like, they're banging with bigs all the time. It's not going to work. Like, so I would try to look for Biyombo, Tristan Thompson, those type of guys, just to, you know, just play those 25 minutes a night and just be competent. James Harden was a very good lob passer. I would try to, you know, put that back into his game at a way more pick and roll, because they just stopped, you know, running pick and roll. And then that's when they traded Capella, because he was kind of useless. So I would change, like I said, I would change up that offensive approach and just have him running way more PNR, so he becomes more of a versatile threat.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I like that. I guess I never thought about it like that as well too. So moving on from that, last segment of the day, you know, NBA drafts coming up in about 2 weeks or so. Before we get into, you know, these top 3 projected picks and company, overall with this class, how are you feeling about the class? It feels like it's really guard driven, but what are your thoughts on the draft in its entirety? Do you think this has potential to be one of the best draft classes we've seen in quite some time? Give me your insight on that.
It's one of the worst ones. Yeah, like I've been getting really mad lately, because we've been like, it's been a known fact that this class is bad, and then people, because okay, the thing with draft a season is that people just get into it and they're like, yeah, I already know everything about it. It's whatever. Like, I read a couple mock drafts, I know everything about it, and they just try to push back, saying, man, this draft is not bad. Well, I don't know why people are saying that. It has a lot of good role players. I'm like, what? Role players? You're going to draft a role player at top 5?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? You're going to draft, like, Denny Villa. I think Denny Villa is going to be a good role player, but he's a role player. I'm not drafting that top 5. So it's like, if it's a draft like that, when he is going to go top 5, and Tyrese Halliburton and stuff like that are going to go top 5, then it's a weak draft. Like, we gotta look, every time we look at drafts, we look at how many All-Stars they got, and that is how we base it on. Okay, it's not like everyone's bad, because, you know, like, people are so talented, but it's not a lot of franchise changing talent
Players.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that too, because I'm one of those people who I don't pay too much attention to these college players or these players overseas and whatnot, and I more so try to digest as much information within the upcoming weeks leading up into the draft. So with me, I agree with you. I necessarily didn't see any, like, you know, franchise changing player, but in my mindset, I'm already looking at, all right, these are the, you know, projected picks that are here right now. And my mindset is, and I guess I shouldn't think like this anyways. I was thinking of, all right, knowing the nucleus that these teams already have, who can basically add to their rotation, who can be a solid role player. But it's interesting that you point that out as well too. I didn't think about it like that. So obviously Minnesota has the first pick, and it's looking like it's more than likely going to be Anthony Edwards from Georgia, 6'5", 225 pounds, 6'9" wingspan. When he was at Georgia, he averaged 19.5 and 1.3 steals, 2.8 assists. You know, I was able to look at a little bit of his footage, and I think he's one of those people that we got to kind of raise our eyebrows and say, all right, maybe, you know, if he's in the right situation, he can definitely ball out, because he already has that size, you know, for a guard. And I think he's probably one of the most athletic, you know, people in this in this draft as well too. Pretty solid shooter, very crafty and explosive as well too. I think he could work a little bit more on his handles and his playmaking ability. But I think, you know, if when it's all said and done, I feel like his ceiling can potentially be like a Victor Oladipo, obviously before that injury, or kind of like a Donovan Mitchell or whatnot. Obviously, like I said, I'm not the most intelligent when it comes to this, so this is why I want to stir to you. But what are your thoughts on Anthony Edwards, and do you actually see him being the number one pick?
So I loved Anthony Edwards coming out of high school, like one of my favorite high school players. There was some clear issues with, first of all, the defense is very bad. Uh, it's like Lamelo bad. Like they're at the same level of defense. There's some flashes of, it's very frustrating because there's some flashes where he like completely locks down someone, and then there's like a lot of the moments where he just decides, man, I'm gonna go double team this guy out of nowhere, and then he leaves his man open on the other side for three, and he'll do stuff like that all the time, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, if you just stand there, you'll be fine. But I mean, he has it all. He has the scoring. The playmaking was coming along well. He has a lot of flashes of that, and like he can score on all three levels. It's just there's a lot of approach issues to his game. It's like that might not be helpful to winning. If you want to build around him, he's not someone that is going to win you a lot of games. I call it like the Zach LaVine effect. It's like if he's your primary guy, then you're going to win games, but not like you're going to win enough games to be like the 8th pick. And that's the worst situation to be in, right? Like Chicago was always picking 7, but they couldn't get the number one guy to pair with a Zach LaVine. They always had to get like a role player type of guy, right? If at best. But yeah, like that's my worry when Anthony Edwards is like the approach to the game. I do think he needs a very specific development. Like how do I say it? He needs a very specific situation for him to like realize his upside, because yeah, if you just give him the ball and let him rock out, it's just all of those issues that he has don't get fixed. And that's what happened from Georgia to, from his hometown high school. Yeah, high school to Georgia. It's just he didn't get fixed because he just got the ball in his hands and they just let him do whatever he wanted. So him on the Wolves, I mean, first of all, the Wolves are in a very bad situation because they got the number one pick. They're one of the worst teams to have gone that, because they're in like they don't need Lamelo. Like Lamelo or Ant doesn't fix their problems because they want to make the playoffs, right? Cat is like 25, I think 24, and he wants to make the playoffs, and he doesn't help them. Like
he'll be 30 before.
Yeah, like a guy like Vassell, Okoro, like those guys will help him. But are you gonna draft those guys at 1? That's what I'm saying. That's the problem. So that's why I feel like them going up to number 1 was like kind of a bad situation for them. But yeah, I don't know if I would draft for them. I would probably just say, man, I would just draft Vassell or Okoro for them. Like if I had to pull that trigger, because I just don't see Anthony Edwards even as a third option like really working for them. I just don't think his issues get fixed. The best situation I see him in is in Golden State, where he just gets to come off the bench, like has a shorter leash when he messes up. He needs accountability in his basketball career. So I think that's probably the best situation for him.
Well, I have a question for Robel, and it's hilarious because, and I know you're not trying to. I know you're speaking in a matter of fact way, but the way you just like casually like shit on people is hilarious. But and I know you're not shitting on people, so that's. But so you talked about his defense, and even on a grassroots level, and I'll ask a question like this. From a developmental level, and I'll say developmental being high school, being college, has defense taken a back seat just overall? And or do you just look at it as like a back when the top guys weren't playing defense either? How do you view defense? Because I mean, like, a couple years ago when Toronto won, Toronto was based on defense. I think the Lakers had pretty good defense. Even, coming down the stretch, they had lost some of their perimeter guys, but they still had, LeBron James that would buy in here and there, definitely coming down the stretch. They had Anthony Davis that could buy in. They had Dwight Howard, who accepted his role as the defender and bought in. So their defense excelled and helped because of that. But do you think defense is even like concept of concentration when it comes to the developmental level, and how much do you think it impacts a guy coming into the league now?
So in high school, there's always the stigma. Like some star players just don't want to play defense. Like they don't put enough of that effort. And there's a lot of those guys. And that's why if I see a guy really play defense like all the time consistently, I give him a lot of points for that because not everyone around him is doing that. His peers aren't doing that. So I don't completely knock them for that. And I didn't knock him for Ant. But when they get to college, that's where I have to look for it because that's where they clean up those habits because they get yelled at a lot. Like they
Hell
get
yeah.
yelled at a lot, right? So it's like that's why they always fix their issues. They fix like they're not trying to get pulled or yelled at or run suicides in practice or something like that. It's way more accountability there. So if you still didn't fix it in college, then I look at it like, okay, this is bad, So
For sure.
but yeah, and like in high school, you always like you see things like defense. I don't like completely harp down on a player unless like he tries a lot and he still gets scored on. That's when it's a worrisome. But like a guy like Jalen Green or something like that, his defense like he doesn't really play defense a lot too. But then there's all these flashes where he just gets like get chased down blocks. So I'm like, okay, there is some defensive potential there, right? Like if he gets, if a coach is really banks down on him, he can play good defense. So that's how I look at it in a high school perspective.
I got you, man. Thank you.
No, that was a good question and a great explanation. I like that as well too. And obviously, we talked about, you're thinking that Anthony Edwards would be best utilized in Golden State system coming off the bench as well too, which kind of makes me go into the Golden State and their projected number 2 pick. So obviously with James Wiseman, he's a center coming out of Memphis. He looks like for the bigs that are in this draft, he looks like the best big. I want to definitely hear your opinion on this, but obviously with Golden State, they're kind of in a rough situation. Obviously, Steph Curry, hand injury, Klay Thompson, ACL injury. They lost Kevin Durant, Andre Iguodala got traded, Sean Livingston retired, has a position in upper management as well too. So their team is a little rough right now. Obviously, they're able to get Andrew Wiggins. And what was good about this season was they actually, went to a couple straight finals, finally got time to rest as well too. So now you have Anthony Wiggins and Andrew Wiggins, who is now, going to essentially be that third scoring option now. He doesn't really have that pressure on him. And obviously you have the Splash Brothers coming back, Draymond looking remotivated as well too. And the blessing in disguise about them was that this year, because their star players were out for basically most of the season, they were able to develop and kind of gain a little bit of fluidity with their role players as well too. So that's going to basically propel them for this upcoming season. So obviously one of the biggest things when they actually acquired D'Angelo Russell before trading for Andrew Wiggins was that, okay, you got an all-star caliber player, you have a unanimous MVP, you have one of the best shooters in Klay Thompson, quintessential 3-and-D player, Draymond Green, Harden still at team X, Y, and Z. What really sucks about them is height, because I feel like now, even though we're in that small ball era, we're kind of slowly seeing a reemergence of a big that's needed to get you to that next level. So do you think James Wiseman will be the legit option for them? And then what are your thoughts on James Wiseman as well too this year?
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of I think Onyeka Okongwu is the best big. I'll say that. But for the Warriors, I would heavily go against big because you look at them and you realize they made McGee back into an NBA player. They had a lot of these guys they can just throw in and they can just fill that simple role in because Draymond's gonna close as the 5 anyway. So it's like picking a big man at number 2 is like, I feel like there's better options, right? Like the Warriors, like the Nets, the Warriors don't really have a lot of good rotation players. So it's like, especially, if you believe in Andrew Wiggins a lot, I still think you gotta, even if you like are the biggest Andrew Wiggins fan, I still think they need another wing, right? So it's like, for them, if like Anthony Edwards gets picked first, then I would just take Melo and just like hold him hostage. Whoever wants Melo, I'll trade you. Just give me like a good like wing player, and I would do that. But if not, I would look at Devin Vassell, Isaac Okoro, just other guys that fit better that aren't bigs. But if they really wanted a big, I would take Onyeka.
Okay, so you think Onyeka is actually better than James Wiseman? Because
Yeah.
I like Onyeka as well too, but I'm just like, and it sucks too because I'm going back to what you said, and once we began this topic of players who fit the role of what the team is looking for. Obviously, Golden State on paper is not one of the worst teams. I think they just need a big that can basically just bang with AD, or at least try to bang with AD. Because now, before it was all right, how do we shape our team to beat Golden State? Now it's all right. This motherfucker LeBron look like he's going to be in his prime for another 4 or 5 more years. 80 only 27 years old. How do we beat these guys? So that's why I was thinking that's why they were going to go for Wiseman, because I thought he was the most ready to come into that role and just be that guy that sets you screens, is another body that you can add to AD as well too, and shot block. But so you definitely think Onyeka would be a better fit for Golden State?
Yeah. Like, the idea of James Wiseman is nice, but if he guards Jokic in the playoffs, Jokic is dropping 50. Like, pick and pop every time. The thing is, like, James Wiseman is like talked about as a nuclear athlete, but he can't move like laterally. He plays. The thing is, the difference between James Wiseman and Onyeka Okongwu is that Onyeka plays. He can play a lot of different pick and roll coverages. He can hedge. He can even switch maybe at times, and he can drop. James Wiseman can just drop, and you can't always play drop because a guy like there's pull-up shooters, so it's like, I mean, how are you gonna play drop against Dame? Like, Dame will kill you, right? He'll drop 50.
Murder you.
So it's like that. The way he can only play one scheme is scary to me, and yeah, he could play like deep drop like Brook Lopez, but then you need to have Steph Curry fighting over every scheme. Like, do a Bledsoe, like having to contest from behind. And you don't want Curry to do that. So I feel like Onyeka would be a better fit as a big man. James Wiseman shooting threes, it's like, even if he does shoot them, it's not going to be at a high enough level where he's going to draw closeouts. So I don't think that's as valuable. Onyeka is probably not going to shoot. Like, there's some mid-range touch, but it's like, it's going to take him a while for him to develop that. But it's just like, rookies, I mean, like, I don't think I would throw a rookie in there and be like, yeah, go guard AD or go guard Jokic. I think they'll just get cooked. Like, honestly, like, even Onyeka would probably get cooked, but he'll have a better chance.
I've coming off of that, I got two things. First off, I think even with the well-known talking point that the NBA is turning from like traditional basketball, I still think the elite teams are somewhat composed traditionally. You know what I'm saying? Like, over the last few years, like Toronto, the Lakers this year, and even if you're not composed traditionally, you're doing something really, really freaking well. Golden State with their shot making ability. Lakers with LeBron James, who is, no, even if you don't want to admit it, is an anomaly, and it's just, the teams that make it that far are somewhat composed very traditionally. And the big man, that quote unquote is like, is give or take with it sometimes. Also, question for you, Robel: if Giannis somehow, some way finds himself not in Milwaukee, where does he land?
Toronto. Come on now. Toronto.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So hear me out.
All right.
So you guys want to know who was the guy that gave Giannis his passport so he could go to the NBA? It was Masai Ujiri. Yeah. It was
Oh.
Masai. Yeah. So
Godfather shit.
The connection is there. The pitch is, hey, Giannis, I have this Giants of Africa stuff camp that I host every year. We're trying to make it a global brand. Like, guys of like Joel Embiid went to that camp and got scouted. Siakam got to that camp and got scouted. So this is like a big deal. Like, it's like, we want to make this a global brand. He wants to start a league, an African basketball league, and I want you and Siakam to be the face of it. What do you say to that? And
Hey, I had no idea. I don't know, see if you knew that either, but nah, you got it for real. So I'm
I
sold.
mean, yeah, I definitely. I mean, at this point in his career, like you already know he wants to be great. So there's only but a few teams you can go to unless you basically are like LeBron James and you kind of build your team. So realistically, I only see him going to Toronto,
Warriors.
going to the Warriors via trade, or probably getting signed in the next offseason with the Miami Heat. Those are realistically the only teams I see, unless Kawhi just says, "Yo, f this, f Paul George, fuck with me." Like that. That's the only thing. That's the only scenario I see for him. But I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it because, like you said, like my favorite player is Kawhi Leonard. So after he left the Spurs, I was able to watch him on Toronto. So I kind of grew some form of connection with Toronto. So I've always been following him ever since. So I wouldn't be mad if he goes there as well too. Now, how do you feel? I don't like to go off topic here. Obviously, like this, episode is primarily about the draft. But how do you feel with Pascal Siakam and Giannis being on the floor together? Do you think they can make it work?
yeah, Giannis is gonna play the 5. Like he's gonna realize that he's a 5. So that's what he is. Because every time he's like the primary point guard,
Doesn't work.
things go wrong. And like I feel like once he plays a 5, and then Pascal, like, okay, he shot like 18% from 3 in the playoffs, but he's a reliable shooter.
Terrible.
Yeah. But in the regular season, he shot like 6 attempts. Like I think he was 36%. So it's like I believe the shot. And then Pascal's on such a strong development curve that he's only gonna get better and better. So I believe him to be a good enough floor spacer. They have Lowry there, so when Giannis, when they build the wall on Giannis, just run a pick and roll, just short roll him. He can play make from there, right? Like while he already has a head of steam with Lowry. If Evan Vliet stays there, he would be an amazing fit next to Giannis. It's just Toronto could surround him with guys that can make a play when he draws in the defense, because Giannis gets the defense attention. It's just the Bucks can't capitalize on that. And like I said, he should play the 5. It's because as good as their defense is with Brook Lopez and Giannis, it's like you can help off Brook Lopez because his form is slow, and it's just like at that point, Brook Lopez becomes like a bit of a liability on offense, right?
Yeah.
So I just feel like just to have prime spacing and just have the offense work and not have Giannis being stonewalled, you gotta play the 5.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
So go ahead.
All right. Sorry. If we want to stay off topic and we'll dive back in to wrap up the episode. I'm the misleading. It's one of the bunch. If you can't tell, Robel. How did you feel? We're down here under you. In the United States of, you can feel the blinking. But how did you feel about the bubble, man? We've had multiple conversations with me and Sewell about it before, during, and even after it. But it just seemed like something that went off, the right way. That was really interesting. How do you feel about the bubble? And then going forward for next season, what do you think the NBA is going to look like?
I wasn't a believer at first. I'm not gonna lie, but it went really great.
Don't worry,
honestly.
Trey wasn't there. Trey wasn't.
Oh,
there.
I was hot on it. I mean, keep going, bro. I was like, because I'm like Malcolm X, but keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, so I wasn't a believer in it at first. I didn't think it was actually just gonna work. Like I just thought someone's gonna catch us. He's gonna have already played. The whole team is gonna have to quarantine for 2 weeks. It's gonna keep happening. People are gonna get restless. I just didn't think it was gonna work. It worked great, honestly, to me. Like as great as it could have been. I mean, I don't know how they're gonna really do it this year. I think they should do the bubble again, but I mean, they're not trying to do it, so I feel like it's gonna be tough. And when they said that the date of the season coming back so fast, I'm just like, just get out of here. Like you guys are not ready. Like don't do that.
Starting
Don't
February.
rush it. Yeah. Like I get they want to have the playoffs at the same year, at same time as every single year, but you can't just rush that. Like, and it's just unfair to the players. It's just really selfish, honestly. So they should just take their time. They have a real plan. I don't know. I don't follow like like Woj and stuff like that, I actually have the notifications turned off because I'm just like, I'm so tired of hearing this. Right? I'll probably turn it on when the free agency starts again, but I'm just so tired of hearing like all these updates and what they are and what they're not gonna do. I'm just like, I'm gonna just roll with the flow. So I just hope they're gonna figure it out, but not that like don't have it like in the next 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah. I believe that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. This is my last thing, and then I'm gonna let you drive it. But I
No,
just
I was
believe
just
that
gonna reply back to what he was saying. But go ahead.
it's a good branding point for the NBA right now. Like you you finished up right. I'm PR, so like I'm public relations. How does it look? Communications to the masses, and I know the masses. Even if you think something, I know the masses are going to interpret it a little bit differently because there's going to be so many people. It's going to be telephone with a lot of stuff. But for this point in this junction right now, it looks like the NBA is doing the right thing. So why not ride with that brand, right? You can capitalize it in a lot of different ways, but it's not going to work if it looks like you guys are in strife against each other between the management and the players and even the owners that I know are still wanting their money. People that are paid millions and millions of dollars already, but they still want to get that bottom line and that check that they usually get. So it's like, let's brand it the right way. Look, the NBA did it the right way with the bubble. And then, it's going to be a little bit of a wait, but we're still going to go ahead and do it the right way again, even if it is in arenas with limited people, or if it is in another bubble or multiple bubbles, whether it be East Coast, Midwest, West Coast, Middle America, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's a good branding opportunity, and they should just wait, like you were saying, Robel, and see. Well, back to you, man. I'm done.
No, I mean, in the perfect world, I would definitely like to wait as well too. But at the end of the day, the owners want their money, the players want their money, and I think they said if they started a little past Christmas, that would mess up. I think the deals that they have set in place with the collective bargaining agreement, and then they also don't want to start it late. That way, it interferes with the Olympics that are going on as well too. So, I kind of see where it's coming from. I mean, to play devil's advocate, I mean, obviously it was unfortunate circumstances, but the pandemic did happen. They had a lot of months off, and there was only a select amount of teams that went there. So a lot of these teams weren't even able to participate in there as well too. So I think they're just gonna have to take this L and start a little bit earlier, and probably have to look into what my boy Kawhi does and load manage. But as far as the bubble again, in the perfect world, I would love for them to go back to the bubble, but I don't really see that happening because they already kind of complained about it. They're already there for what, a little over 90 days or some shit like that. So that was just 3 scrimmage games, eight regular season games, exhibition games, and then you had 3 rounds of the playoffs plus the finals. I don't see them being there for over like 200 days. Like that's just unrealistic. So they may take a motto out of the NFL book, and they may try to do that. I think the players are a little bit more disciplined, but I mean, when you're not under supervision constantly like you are in the bubble, motherfuckers definitely gonna, be wilding out here and whatnot. So we'll see what happens with that. So I think they should obviously ramp up the testing daily. And I think what they're gonna do to cut down on it is, one person said that, so let's say, for example, obviously, if you're in the West, if you're not in the division, you play them 3 times. If you're in the division, you play them 4 times. So they're saying, what if we do something where Lakers and the Warriors are in the same division? We go to the Warriors and we just play them for like an entire week, and then we move on to the next team and then go into the next team. What if we do something like that? So that's another option we can look at. But I think they're just going to have to, do what they got to do and start earlier. And then they also talked about like the escrow as well too. So basically with the escrow, let's say if you're Steph Curry and you're making $44 million this year, if they start a little bit late, then they're going to lose a lot of that money. Plus, taking into consideration the fans not being there and adding the extra revenue, they're going to lose a little bit of money. So if you're Steph Curry, you're making like $44 million a year. That's going to get shaven basically almost to 50% as well too. And then the rookies, people who get paid 1.5 mil, that gets shaved to like 650K as well too. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to them wanting their bread. So I think they're gonna start a little bit before Christmas on like the 22nd and move forward. And plus the NBA, NFL has Thanksgiving and all that stuff as well too. The NBA's, when you think of Christmas, you think of the NBA. So I think it's only right for them to start. But if I could choose, obviously I would want to start later. But I understand the politics behind everything as well too. Going back to the Warriors, so with what you said about James Wiseman, them investing in that other player that you mentioned, or potentially like another guard or a wing type of player. If you're the Warriors, are you just going to draft one of those players that you said, or would you draft a Lamelo Ball or get a Wiseman and kind of use them as trade bait to go along with like an Andrew Wiggins to get a player that you're looking for?
I probably I don't know how much a pick is for, like how much, like, you have to match salaries and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much, if you can just trade a pick for like a player. I don't know how that exactly works. I don't think you could trade the pick and Andrew Wiggins, because Andrew Wiggins like has negative value. So it's like, I don't think every time I see this trade, I'm like, I don't know if that like a pick and Andrew Wiggins, like the pick isn't even that valuable enough to just attach Andrew Wiggins' contract. His contract's long. So I feel like he's gonna stay on the team. I mean, I would first just draft LaMelo and then just be like, all right, who wants him? And then do that. But if I had to draft a player, I'd probably just draft Devin Vassell at 2, even though that's super high. But if I was like Bob Myers and I had to do that pick, I'd feel comfortable taking him.
Okay. Moving on to, probably the most popular player in this up-and-coming draft, LaMelo Ball. Obviously hit a crazy-ass growth spurt. He's 6'7" now? I think he has like a 6'10" wingspan. Overseas, he was averaging 17, 8, and 17, 8, and 8 as well, too. Very quick. I think his ceiling is higher than his brother Lonzo as well, too. A little bit more aggressive, very creative. Great playmaker, has great vision. I think when it's all said and done, if he has that right mindset, I think he's going to be the best player in this draft. And I'm also on that wave of, I like these oversized point guards or like these point forward type of players as well too. So I think he's one of those guys who you have to let him go to a team that's not that good and really, take the leash off of him, let him go. But where do you see him going? Do you see him being a number 1 pick? Do you see Golden State taking him? Do you see him going number 3 to Charlotte? Do you see him dropping to Chicago? What are your thoughts on his game, what he can add to a team, and where you see him ending up at?
So I love LaMelo. He's my number 1 prospect pretty easily. People have concerns about the shot. I feel like he's never going to get left wide open. It's not a Lonzo problem. It's just a efficiency problem. And he's just going to make shots. And I always tell people, man, Luka shot 31% from 3, and they're still doubling him every time he turns the corner on a pick and roll. So if all LaMelo has to get is in the low 30s, and that's not impossible to attain, because, his shot selection is an issue, but it's not to the point where you can't rein that in, right? So if he reins that in, he stops taking these 4-pointers, because he took a lot of just iso the big man. He could clearly get by him, and then he's just like, yep, I'm just shooting in your face, like from 4 feet, like behind the 3-point line. So if you just take all of those out, and then he'll just be a 5 shooter. Off the ball as well, he's pretty good. I don't know the exact percentage, but in synergy, he was a very good spot-up player. So I think he's a very good cutter as well. He just has a great feel for the game. So I think his off-ball utility is underrated as well. Recently, he's been bombing his interviews. LaMelo has never been a good interviewer. Like he's always just like, just he give you one-cut answers. He's not going to give you a lot. He's not going to show you a lot of his personality. And I feel like he generally gets misunderstood. So he just doesn't want to break out of his shell. Like, we see like him like laughing and messing around, but I think he's generally like, oh, I could mess up right here and I'm just nervous. Like, I think he generally has that. And I think it's not because he's just coming off as an arrogant kid. He's just, he just wants to play basketball and he's great at it. So, but he's dropping down. So I think the Charlotte should probably take him. But if they're not, the Bulls should. And then like if they're not, then who has number 5? I don't remember who has number 5 exactly.
Number 5 is Cleveland.
Yeah, well, Cleveland shouldn't take him.
Yeah,
But
got guards for days.
and then Hawks shouldn't take him, but the Pistons should. It's just a lot of teams that fit. I don't think he. I mean, I think he's probably gonna go to the Hornets or the Bulls. I don't think he should fall past 4 though.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's crazy how you're saying like he needs to work on his shot selection, and then you revert it back to other players that you mentioned before. They have to work on their defense. So you do think with the shot selection that can be fixed, you do think is just because he was in unfamiliar territory playing overseas, and then kind of giving him the green light that he was able to basically just go out there and just do whatever you want. So you think that can definitely be dialed back as well too?
Yeah, there was like when you look at that team and you watch the games, you realize no one could really create their own shot, so they just end up passing it back to Lamelo, and you have to shoot a lot of like end of the buzzer shot clock shots, and that's what happens. Like it was basically Lamelo, and then I mean Aaron Brooks was there too, but Aaron Brooks is not really he can't really take people off the bounce like that. He tries, but he's not that great at it. So it's like Lamelo was forced to take some shots that he was forced to hold a higher usage that he probably shouldn't have taken. Like he's gonna be better with better players around him. That's how I look at him. And then I want to talk about the defense too. So it's not a Trae Young situation because Lamelo is 6'7" and he is gonna add weight. So I think he'll be fine on the ball. It's not someone I'm gonna throw against like LeBron or anything just because he's 6'7". I put him on. What I would do is I put him on the worst player and have him just playing the passing lanes all the time because he's great at that. Like he gambles a little bit too much sometimes, but that could be reeled in. Just there's some flashes of him having amazing rotations. He's there super early, and he's just a super smart player, and that's super high field. Like once he locks into that, I feel like he could be a very good events creator, someone that gets a lot of steals. So I feel like he plays that how do I say it? That free safety role. That I feel like that would be his role on defense, and he can even be a positive on that end if he does that. So that's how I feel about his D.
Do you think he's gonna end up having a better career than his brother?
Yeah, for sure. Like the thing with Lonzo is like, I want to talk about his floor too. Lamelo's floor, Lamelo's floor is like Lonzo, but like still better. Like if he doesn't become like the lead option, like that point guard, there's still a role for him to be that linking player, makes everyone better around him because he could still play the 2 or the 3. Like he has the size for it, right? He's not strictly a point guard. So, and I think the spot of shooting is fine from catch and shoot. It's pretty good. So he could do that. He could use his playmaking ability from there, and he can get by guys. The problem is the finishing, but he can get by guys. So it's like I still see him being a valuable rotation player, actually starters still being a starter, even if he's not the guy that is creating all the possessions, being the main number 1 option. So his floor is higher than Lonzo's, and his ceiling is higher than Lonzo's.
Nice. Moving on. Obviously, you talked about Onyeka for a little bit, so we'll go past him. Obi Toppin, I think I pronounced his name right, from Dayton. Yeah. Now, a lot of people have been drawing comparisons saying that he could be like an Amari Stoudemire type of player. How do you feel about him going into this draft?
Someone told me he plays defense like current Amari Stoudemire, like 40-year-old Amari Stoudemire. That's basically the what's it called? How do I say it? The story with him. The defense, the offense is great. Amazing rim roller, good shooter. Could once he jumps, no one's really jumping with him. Like, and just in general, right? Yeah. And then he's gonna get buckets. Like, he's a very good offensive player. It's just the defense sets you so much back, and I just don't like. I think we're moving away from one-way bigs and seeing how valuable they are. I just don't know what he plays on defense. I don't think he's too slow to guard like the 4s in the NBA. Like, if you put him on Siakam or Tatum or like any of those perimeter 4s, they're going to destroy him. So then you have to play him at the 5, and then his pick and roll defense is like it's horrible. So it's like as much as his offense is very exciting, and he's probably even going to win Rookie of the Year just off the production, it's just long term. You're looking at someone that you really have to build a roster around and really have to have a lot to cater for him. And that's not someone I would like to draft high.
Mm, interesting. So I think right now, looking at like the last mock draft, I think he was projected to go to actually number 5 to Cleveland. Do you think that's a good fit for him?
It's okay. I don't think any fit is great in the lottery. Like I would draft him outside the lottery. Like I will, yeah, that's how I feel. Um, just because it's very hard to. How many teams could really cater for a big man that's bad on defense, right? The big has to be good on defense. Like
Yeah.
so, that's my issue with him. I mean, the Cavs could just say, "Man, we don't even care about defense. Let's just go all offense, everything." And I feel like that would be bad, but I mean, it's not like he'll find he's gonna go top 5. So I guess that's like an okay spot.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Now there's a couple of point guards that I like in this draft. One of them being that guy from Ohio State. I think it's Tyrese Halliburton. To me, I think his upside can be like a Shy or like a Jamal Murray
Iowa
a little
State.
bit, and then obviously Iowa State, and then obviously you have the guy from UNC as well, and then a couple other players as well. Obviously, outside of Lamelo Ball, what point guard do you like coming out of this draft?
I like Killian Hayes a lot. I have him over Anthony Edwards. He's my number 2 prospect. He's really good. Like as a passer, he's amazing. Just an inch below Lamelo. You can make an argument for Halliburton, but the reason I can't is because Killian can get by guys, and Halliburton struggles with that. So it's like it doesn't matter how good of a passer you are. If you can't draw two, then who are you gonna pass to? You're gonna pass it to guys that are already guarded.
Yeah.
So Killian, the knock on him is he's not that athletic, but he improved a lot athletically, and I think like he has that good change of pace type of guy. He's not gonna like blow by you, but he's one of those guys that's always open. So the he's already taking double step back threes like James Harden in the playing in Europe, and 6'5", he's pretty big for his size. He's gonna add a lot of muscle. Good finisher at the rim, amazing passer. He's gonna be a primary in the NBA, and I just hold guys that could hold a lot of usage highly. Like I value that a lot. That's why I have him really high. And his defense is very good as well. Like good point of attack defender, could guard ones and twos, maybe even smaller threes. And yeah, just a great prospect. I love Killian Hayes.
Okay. As far as these, forwards or these wing players that we have listed here, I'm looking at Isaac Okoro. I'm looking at Aaron Neesmith. I'm looking at Patrick Williams. Who do you think has the highest upside out of all those three?
Sorry, did you say Isaac Okoro?
Yeah.
It's a debate between Isaac and Pat. I can't really decide right now. I love both of them. I think Pat is very underrated. He has shown a lot of like weird like sub skills that you just don't expect. Like he does live dribble passes at like at playing the four. I'm just like, how can you do that? Like he just like whipping past like he's Lamelo. I'm just like, what? Like how? Why do you have that? But I mean, Isaac Okoro is just all it matters is that he has to hit spot up jumpers, or else he's not going to be that valuable on offense. Because at 6'6", he's just going to be a roll man. His slashing is very good, but if you just step 2 steps back, it's going to be hard for him to get by guys, right? So that's his issue. Aaron Neesmith, not someone I like that much. He's a very good shooter. I just wonder how good of a shooter he is. And then the only role I really see him playing is that Duncan Robinson role. Don't think he has anything else. And then his defense is very iffy too. So it's like, I mean, he's really strong. Like he looks like he should be a lockdown defender, but he's just not. And that concerns me. But yeah, there could be a team that later in the lottery that could use him like he's like, the best shooter in the world. And then he just becomes really good in that role. So yeah. But as upside goes, it's a tie between Okoro and Patrick Williams. Actually, I'll probably say Okoro. So yeah, I'm making the decision.
Okay. Who would you say outside of the United States or these, naturalized citizens, who outside of the U.S. do you think is the best out of this draft?
Killian Hayes. So Killian, I can't remember where he actually playing right. I think Germany. I hope I'm right. Yeah, he was born in the U.S., but his dad was an overseas player, so he basically grew up in France. But he played in Germany. So I would say Killian, and then a lot of people would say Denny, but I say Alexei Pokushevsky. That's like a super underrated player in the draft. He's like 7 foot, weirdest player I've ever seen in a while. Like 7 foot, and he's like doing no look passes in transition, shooting pull up threes. Not and he's like 180 as a
Mm.
7 footer. Like he's super skinny. So it's like the upside is so high though. It's like I have to put him highly because if this guy pops, it's gonna be great. So that's why I have him over Denny Villa. And then Denny's like people see like star talent in him. I see him as like a good player at 6'9" that can do everything reasonably solid. Like solid to okay. And I just think there's not one skill that really shows that he's a start player. That's why I don't really put him as high as the national consensus does.
Okay. Yeah, back to that guy you're talking about from Serbia, Alexic or whatever his name is.
Yeah,
I like him a
Alexei.
lot. Yeah, Alexi. I like him a lot too, but I feel like he's gonna have I think his draft stock is gonna drop just because of the competition that he played and then his build. But like you said, his upside is crazy. Like I can see him being kind of like a Jokic type of player in the future. So I think he's gonna be one of those players where his draft stock drops, but if you're a team that doesn't necessarily need someone to give you impact right now, and you kind of let him, see what it's like to be a player and basically get his weight up and get his strength up and all that good stuff as well too. Like you said, I think his upside is going to be crazy. So, Jokic was a late round pick, and then who's that other guy that we have as well too that they drafted last year? Bobo was a late pick as well too. So I think he can go into that type of role as well.
Yeah, I mean the Spurs have have the 11th pick. They could choose him. The Celtics too. So they're not really guys that have good development programs, and I think that's a great fit. I feel like someone's just gonna see the upside and be like, yeah, there's not like we don't want to draft a role player in the lottery. Let's just swing for upside if we have this high of a pick. So, and I think that's the right
Facts.
thing to do.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then one of my last things I want to talk about with all these players that we mentioned, who have we not mentioned, or who is that under the radar player that you think, that's going to surprise us? Because I didn't think Donovan Mitchell was going to be this good back when he was there. I didn't think a good amount of these players are going to be that good as well too. So who do you think is that under the radar player right now in the draft?
I'll give you guys three. One is Devin Vassell. Looked at as a 3-and-D guy, is more than that. He has a lot of pull-up flashes that I'm just like, okay, like not even flashes. He's a good pull-up shooter in college. So it's like there's some creation ability there. And then as a team defense guy, like I said, Lamelo could play the free safety role. Devin is like one of the best team defenders I've ever seen. Like he gets everything. Like he gets his hands on everything. So it's like he could be a monster through that. And then obviously 42% shooter from 3 too. So 6'7", long. So yeah, I think that's going to be a very good player. I would draft him way higher than they have. Next one is Tyrex Maxie. The Kentucky guys always seem to play good. So that's an easy bet. He shot 29% from 3, which is why he's going to get drafted outside of the lottery. But in high school, you look at his numbers every year and they're pretty high. So I'm not going to let one Kentucky year affect my say that he's a non-shooter. And he's a very good slasher, plays very well, can finish through contact, very good defender. And yeah, he's a 3-level scorer. So I like him a lot too. And then lastly, we have Cara Lewis, played at Alabama. He's a sophomore, but he's 19. He was 17 years old when he was playing point guard as a freshman. So that's interesting. Wow. Fastest player in the draft, 6'3", and he could shoot. He's not one of those fast guys that can't shoot. He shot 36% on 462 attempts in 3 years. So there's like a big track record of him shooting the ball. So he can shoot well. If he develops, he's a very good playmaker as well. If he develops like if he can finish really good at the rim, because he gets to the rim anytime he wants. He's just not a great like jumper. That's his thing. Like he can't really jump high. So it's like if he draws a lot of fouls or he becomes an amazing pull-up shooter, which he's actually shown flashes of, then he could be one of the best players in the draft too. So those are three guys that I have really high compared to how they looked at in the ESPN boards and stuff like that. And I think they're gonna surprise people.
Okay, cool. And then last thing for you, obviously we talked about these top tier players, most slept on players, X, Y, and Z. Putting the GM hat on right here. Who's number one? Who's number two? And who's number three?
Okay. I mean, number one, I go Ant if I'm playing it safe. Number two, no trades, right? Yeah. Let's
No
just
trades.
do no trades. Yeah.
No
So
trades.
okay, number two is interesting. Number two, I go Devin Vassell number two. that's how much I like him. I go Devin Vassell number two. And then number three, I'd go
Charlotte Bobcats. Hornets.
it's I'd probably have to go. I'm leaning towards Killian Okongwu or who else? Or Lamelo. I just forgot Lamelo's there. That's tough. I'd probably go Lamelo, just highest upside.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, we're gonna see definitely, how the draft turns out as well too. It's probably gonna be the next time we actually release the episode. So I appreciate you being on episode 95 of the Seezus Show.
I got one last question.
Okay, go ahead.
How many more years does LeBron James play in the NBA?
I mean, how many years until his son comes, right? Like his son wants to,
Like 3, maybe.
Probably
I think at this point. No,
yeah,
four. Like 4.
like 3, 4, depending on how they're gonna look at change the run and done rule.
Yeah.
I mean, LeBron got 5 in him. It just depends. Like LeBron got 5. Like LeBron got 5, maybe 6. Like, not like an amazing player, but he's still gonna be LeBron. Like I don't see him ever averaging under 20 points a game. That's the thing.
Do you see LeBron taking that Tim Duncan approach or that Dirk approach where it's like you're still respected, you're still, like you said, you don't see him averaging under 20 points. Do you see him like at a certain point in time it's like, all right, like I'm getting older. Do you see him like taking a team friendly deal to bring in more talent?
I don't know. Actually, no, I feel like LeBron would never do that because he knows he's such a brand where it's like, I'm so valuable to the team regardless of how good I am.
Facts.
Right?
That's facts.
And Tim Duncan's a unique personality too, right? Like
He very much is.
Yeah, like him and Dirk, they don't make him like that no more. So it's like, but as a player, like I could see him take a step back. I feel like he really wants that. Like this year, he really wants the Lakers to draft like a ball handler so he can like take some breaks.
Relax.
Right? Because it's taxing mentally. So, yeah, I think that's what he's gonna look for. But I think he's just gonna like now that he has the ring, he's gonna be like, all right, AD next. Like you're the number one guy now, right? Like you're gonna win the Finals MVP. I'm just gonna be your secondary. So that's how he's gonna transition.
Nah, I don't think LeBron going. See, LeBron's good. LeBron's gonna make him the guy, but when it's playoff time, he want that Finals MVP.
He might
I know that's his thing, but it's just like he's just gonna keep slowing down, right? So it's like
that's
my,
fact.
thing, right? So it's
Prediction.
like so I see the regression is gonna happen. I'm just saying like, and then AD is gonna get only better because he's still young. So it's like I mean, AD was close this year. He just didn't finish it out. There was real like people were really saying AD should be Finals MVP. So it's like if AD takes his game to another level and LeBron like regresses a little bit, I just see it happening.
Yeah, I'm just a little worried about. I mean, obviously Anthony Davis proved that he can play through the pain, but it's like it seems like he always getting a knick-knack injury, and I'm like, damn, like, are you going to be there next year with LeBron, or is something going to happen? I'm a little worried about him.
Yeah.
So. Any last questions, Trey?
Nah, man. My last sentiments is Robel. Thank you, man. You were quick to the trigger. You were available, and you were an amazing guest this time, man. So we'll talk a little bit off air and stuff like that. But anything you need from us, so we can help in any way, definitely here, man. Family thing at this point, support thing at this point, man. So it's all love over here, bro. We appreciate what you do and respect the talent, bro, because you were leagues above, So thank you, bro.
Appreciate it, man. I mean, it was fun doing this. I'm not gonna. I see what you guys are doing. Like, I watched some of the episodes, so I'm just like, I mean, why not? Like, also, you got to support. Black people got to support each other too. So that's why I had to do it. Like, it's not. I'm not gonna lie. I don't say yes to everyone. I'll say that. So
Yeah, man.
For sure,
We appreciate
yeah,
you.
man. I appreciate you being on the show, man. Like Trey said, it's an honor for you to be here. Know your shit. Love that. I just like this the whole time listening. Like, yeah, this nigga.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yo, man, if you're ever free again, I would love to have you on another show. Potentially post draft analysis. How you feel about players going to particular places and whatnot. I would love to have you back on the show as well.
well,
Any
anytime.
last words from you?
Nah, I'm good. I mean, thank you guys for having me. It was a good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was episode 95 of the Seezus Show. Make sure to subscribe on all social platforms at Sir Seezus, at the Seezus Show, at StrayDateXXIV, and follow Robel at Robel. Is it Tussin?
Yeah, Tussin.
Robel Tussin as well too.
Yeah.
And on that note, we out.